This is the Quotations from Chairman Mao Zedong, also known as the Little Red Book. Chapter 31. Women. A man in China is usually subjected to the domination of three systems of authority, in brackets, political authority, clan authority, and religious authority. As for women, in addition to being dominated by these three systems of authority, they are also dominated by the men, in brackets, the authority of the husband. These four authorities, political, clan, religious, and masculine, are the embodiment of the whole feudal patriarchal ideology and system, and are the four thick ropes binding the Chinese people, particularly the peasants. How the peasants have overthrown the political authority of the landlords in the countryside has been described above. The political authority of the landlords is the backbone of all the other systems of authority. With that overturned, the clan authority, the religious authority, and the authority of the husband all begin to totter. As to the authority of the husband, this has always been weaker among the poor peasants because, out of economic necessity, their womenfolk have to do more manual labor than the women of the richer classes, and therefore have more say and greater power of decision-making in family matters. With the increasing bankruptcy of the rural economy in recent years, the basis for man's domination over his women has already been undermined. With the rise of the peasant movement, the women in many places have now begun to organize rural women's associations. The opportunity has come for them to lift up their heads, and the authority of the husband is getting shakier every day. In a word, the whole feudal patriarchal ideology and system is tottering with the growth of the peasants' power. Quotations from a report on an investigation of the peasant movement in Hunan, March 1927. Selected Works, Volume 1, pages 44 through 46. Unite and take part in production and political activity in order to improve the economic and political status of women. Quotation from an inscription for the magazine Women of New China, printed in its first issue, July 20th, 1949. Protect the interests of the youth, women, and children. Provide assistance to young student refugees. Help the youth and women to organize in order to participate on an equal footing in all work useful to the war effort and to social progress. Ensure freedom of marriage and equality as between man and woman, and give young people and children a useful education. Quotation from On Coalition Government, April 14th, 1945. Selected Works, Volume 3, page 288. In square brackets, in agricultural production, closing bracket, our fundamental task is to adjust the use of labor, power in an organized way, and to encourage women to do farm work. Quotation from Our Economic Policy, January 23rd, 1934. Selected Works, Volume 1, page 142. In order to build a great socialist society, it is of the utmost importance to arouse the broad masses of women to join in productive activity. Men and women must receive equal pay for equal work in production. Genuine equality between the sexes can only be realized in the process of the socialist transformation of society as a whole. Quotation from an introductory note to Women Have Gone to the Labor Front, circa 1955, The Socialist Upsurge in China's Countryside, Chinese edition, Volume 1. With the completion of agricultural cooperation, many cooperatives are finding themselves short of labor. It has become necessary to arouse the great mass of women who did not work in the fields before to take their place on the labor front. China's women are a vast reserve of labor power. This reserve should be tapped in the struggle to build a great socialist country. Quotation from an introductory note to Solving the Labor Shortage by Arousing the Women to Join in Production, circa 1955. The Socialist Upsurge in China's Countryside, Chinese edition, Volume 2. Enable every woman who can work to take her place on the labor front, under the principle of equal pay for equal work. This should be done as quickly as possible. Quotation from an introductory note to On Widening the Scope of Women's Work in the Agricultural Cooperative Movement, circa 1955. The Socialist Upsurge in China's Countryside, Chinese edition, Volume 1. This concludes Chapter 31. Chapter 32, Culture and Art, shall be enclosed in the following video of this series. Thank you for joining us, and have a wonderful evening.